All right, I made a mistake and I shut this thing off, but I'm just going to continue. My techie will figure this out and put it out there. And my wife came down with the flu, I think for the second time this year. It's really been tough around here, man. But just like everybody else, we fear the Lord. We have a respectful fear of God. Yet we're still subject to the crap that's on the earth, man. Because of the curse. Because of sin. Let me continue this reading here. Now, there was a woman that was taking care of Elisha while he was in his travels. And she said unto her husband, Behold now, I perceive that this is an holy man of God, which passeth by us continually. She knew what was going on, man. She also knew God. She's talking about God. Let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, when he cometh to us, that he shall turn in thither. Place for him to rest, huh? Now they keep talking about walls here in the Bible. We need a wall on our southern border where it's able to be put. I mean, there's a lot of natural parts of the country where a wall just can't go, but where you can, to try and keep the evil out. The best way to keep the evil out is by putting the angels down there on the border. I'll talk about that later. All right. And it fell on a day that he came thither, and he turned into the chamber and lay there. She told him about it, and he probably said, Thank you very much, ma'am. And there he is, relaxing. And he said to Gehazi, his servant, Call this Shunammite. And when he had called her, she stood before him. And he said unto him, Say now unto her, Behold, thou hast been careful for us with all this care. What is to be done for thee? He wants to repay her. Wouldst thou be spoken for to the king, or to the captain of the host? And she answered, I dwell among mine own people. And he said, What then is to be done for her? And Gehazi answered, now this is the servant, Verily, she hath no child, and her husband is old. And he said, Call her. And when he had called her, she stood in the door. And he said, About this season, according to the time of life, thou shalt embrace a son. Isn't that what the Lord said to Sarah, Abraham's wife, when she was old? She didn't have any kids either. And she had Isaac when she was 90 years old. And Abraham was 100. Here we are doing it again here. God is telling her she's going to have a baby. And he's using the prophet to convey these words to her. Can you imagine if this lady said, Nope, I'm going to boogie on down to Planned Parenthood and I'm going to kill this baby in my womb? Can you imagine that? That's what's happening in America today. That's why evil is growing in America. Because America is killing, destroying the children given by God. Plain truth. That's what I'm explaining. And she said, Nay, my Lord, thou man of God, do not lie unto thy handmaid. Don't tell me lies. And the woman conceived and bare a son at that season that Elisha had said unto her, according to the time of life. You know, there's an area in the Bible, there's a time for living, a time for dying, time for laughing, time for crying, a time for planting, a time for harvest. There's a time of life. You imagine that? That life came from God. It is sustained by God. When the body dies, and that's because of the curse, because the woman ate the apple in the Garden of Eden, that's when death entered into everything. But that life that's in there, all those babies that were killed in the womb, they were alive. There was life there. That's the part that returns to God. The blessing goes back to God who gave it. I hope that's a good enough explanation for a lot of people who are listening. If you did that, all you got to do is say, Lord, I did not know. Please forgive me. And mean it. And he'll take care of it. He will take care of it. And when the child was grown, it fell on a day that he went out to his father to the reapers. And he said unto his father, My head, my head. And he said to the lad, Carry him to his mother. The guy probably had a tumor in his head or something. Who knows? He had a headache. And when he had taken him and brought him to his mother, he sat on her knees till noon and then died. Uh-oh. And she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God and shut the door upon him and went out. This is an excellent story. It's a true story. Listen to what happened. And she called unto her husband and said, Send me, I pray thee, one of the young men and one of the asses, that I may run to the man of God and come again. And he said, Wherefore wilt thou go to him this day? It is neither new moon nor Sabbath. And she said, It shall be well. Let me see if I can find something about that. Let's see, 23. She's saying, we're going to have some peace. But I got to do this. Then she saddled an ass and said to her servant, Drive and go forward. Slack not thy riding for me, except I bid thee. In other words, go like hell. Don't worry about me, unless I ask you to slow down. So she went and came unto the man of God to Mount Carmel. I reckon that's where Elisha spent a lot of his time. We'll talk about, you got to hear about Carmel too, and all the stuff that happened around there. And it came to pass, when the man of God saw her afar off, that he said to Gehazi his servant, Behold, yonder is that Shunammite. Run now, I pray thee, to meet her, and say unto her, Is it well with thee? Is it well with thy husband? Is it well with the child? And she answered, It is well. And when she came to the man of God to the hill, she caught him by the feet. But Gehazi came near to thrust her away. And the man of God said, Let her alone, for her soul is vexed within her. And the Lord hath hid it from me, and hath not told me. Can you imagine that? By him saying that, it gives proof that God reveals a whole bunch of stuff to his prophets. But he didn't reveal this to Elisha. Why not? Well, let's read the story and find out. Then she said, Did I desire a son of my Lord? Did I not say, Do not deceive me? Then he said to Gehazi, Gird up thy loins, and take my staff in thine hand, and go thy way. If thou meet any man, salute him not. And if any salute thee, answer him not again, and lay my staff upon the face of the child. Elisha's going to try to do something. And he's actually sending his servant to do it. And the mother of the child said, As the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, I will not leave thee. And he arose and followed her. In other words, she wouldn't go with the servant. She wanted Elisha. And Gehazi passed on before them, and laid the staff upon the face of the child, but there was neither voice nor hearing. In other words, the kid was dead. It's not like the preachers of today say, he went home to be with the Lord when he died. It's not true. That's a lie. You just heard it right here. It says, there was neither voice nor hearing. The dead child knew nothing. There was no life in that child. Wherefore he went again to meet him and told him, saying, The child is not awake. He's telling Elisha. And when Elisha was come into the house, behold, the child was dead and laid upon his bed. Proof. When you die, you are dead. Not by what these preachers are telling you today. He went in, therefore, and shut the door upon them twain, and prayed unto the Lord. Which Elijah went into where the kid was, and he closed the door, and God was listening to Elisha's prayer. I think there were other things going on here, but it's my own opinion. Elisha needed some comfort. Elisha needed some proof because of what's going to be in his future. And God is showing him, have absolute confidence in me and my guidance. I could run away with that right there and tell you some stuff. But I'm not going to. You want to hear this story here. Elisha's praying to God. He's up there with the dead boy. And he went up and lay upon the child and put his mouth upon his mouth, and his eyes upon his eyes, and his hands upon his hands. In other words, they were face to face. And he stretched himself upon the child, and the flesh of the child waxed warm. Life entered back into the child. And God used Elisha to do this, not the servant. Then he returned and walked in the house to and fro, and went up and stretched himself upon him. And the child sneezed 7 times, and the child opened his eyes. And he called Gehazi and said, "Call this Shunammite." So he called her, and when she was come in unto him, he said, "Take up thy son." Then she went in and fell at his feet and bowed herself to the ground and took up her son and went out. Can you imagine the gratitude this lady had to Elisha and God for giving her back her son? Can you imagine if several years before she boogied on down to Planned Parenthood and killed this kid? There's no coming back when you do that. This was done for a reason. You want to keep reading this stuff and put it in your head, because it helps you in making decisions in your life. And Elisha came again to Gilgal, and there was a dearth in the land, and the sons of the prophets were sitting before him. And he said unto his servant, "Set on the great pot, and seethe pottage for the sons of the prophets." In other words, he's going to feed them. By meaning there was a girth in the land, and there was a famine. Let me see if I can come up with that. A dearth. Oh, a dearth. D-E-A-R-T-H in the land. And one went out into the field to gather herbs, and found a wild vine, and gathered thereof wild gourds, his lap full, and came and shred them into the pot of pottage, for they knew them not. In other words, they didn't know what they were going to eat. So they poured out for the men to eat. And it came to pass, as they were eating of the pottage, that they cried out and said, "O thou man of God, there is death in the pot." And they could not eat thereof. But he said, "Then bring meal." And he cast it into the pot. And he said, "Pour out for the people, that they may eat." And there was no harm in the pot. Elisha took care of that. God does miracles. He even does them today. You don't see them all over the place, but it happens. And there came a man from Baal Shalisha, far out names here, and brought the man of God bread of the first fruits, 20 loaves of barley, and full ears of corn in the husk thereof. And he said, "Give unto the people, that they may eat." And his servitor, in other words, the servant, said, "What? Should I set this before 100 men? He just brought enough food for one guy." And he said again, "Give the people, that they may eat. For thus saith the Lord," the word of God being spoken by the prophet Elisha, "They shall eat, and shall leave thereof." I explained earlier, some other time in another video, how I saw this exact same thing happen. Blew my mind, and I didn't even know how he did it. Happened right in front of my face. So he set it before them, and they did eat, and left thereof, according to the word of the Lord. not to want here or desire. Wouldn't you want this for you and your family? Blessings from God? Having a relationship with God? I gotta knock this off, but I'll be right back.